non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Carl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
Welcome to The Bigger Picture with me, Nick, and my co-host, Sid. Hey, Sid.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. We got a really cool show. Actually, it will be a little bit different because Johnny can't make it. So to all the Digibyte listeners out there, sorry, he will be on, but probably in the next one. He got some visits, unexpected visitors. So we have to do it, the two of us.
Yeah.
But I do have good news because I got a real cool show for you guys. I got a lot of clips. I got a lot of notes. First of all, any news on your side, Sid?
Yeah. So it's not a news. It's again, you know that I'm going out every night for hours, walking, looking at the sky. So for a while, I wasn't seeing anything. Last night, I saw something cool. The problem happened. My phone was not charged. I didn't even see. So when I went there, I couldn't shoot it. But what I saw in the sky, so there was like a very big patch of clouds on one side, and other side was very clear. You have seen that kind of pattern, right? One side is covered and other side is open sky. So there were like white lights, looks like orbs coming out of the clouds,
Yeah.
traveling for a minute and then disappear.
Wow. Okay. And did
And
you put it on video?
no, because unfortunately my phone was not charged. I didn't even see that. I went out for a walk. I did forget to charge, so I was trying to turn it on, but it wasn't turning on. It turned off. It was not from the UFO. It was just battery ran out of it. I didn't
Yeah,
see
well, you know what they say, right? I mean, there were actually also a lot of reports of people trying to capture the UAPs that flying over New Jersey, and then the batteries completely drained, even though they were full, and also with
Yeah.
phones, all that kind of stuff. There were multiple reports of people who were actually
It
trying
was
to film.
it was so weird because it was like dead, and it was like it wasn't even one person. It was like dead. I was like, fuck, that's so sad. Anyway, but those lights were like a lot of them. It was like 15 to 20, and not coming it together. They were coming one by one, or two, sometimes two coming out. One is behind, one is a little bit further. They reached certain point. It was like a edge. There was an edge. Every light reaches that point and then boom, disappeared.
Yeah,
It was just white like a star.
well, that sounds like a genuine UAP. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a good place also to start.
But it was weird, and I was so sad that I couldn't shoot it, and it was so far away too. So, well, it was not that far away because I could see it clearly. It wasn't one, and then there were some. It wasn't just me, because there were some cars who were going around. One or two of them stopped and looked at that.
Okay, so it was really weird, and you
It
were
was
not
really
only
weird. Yeah.
witness. Yeah, and that's like I said, that's probably a good place to start because I also wanted to highlight the fact that those UAP or those drones, the drone debacle, as Ross Coulthard calls it, it's still ongoing, right? There's still people are still seeing it. There was a statement made which didn't make much sense, which we'll also reflect on that. But as you say, like first of all, they are ongoing because you're still seeing it, and you're in Vancouver in Canada, right? These things are happening all over.
Totally opposite side, because we are on the west coast and New Jersey is on the east coast.
Yeah. So and they're happening all over the world, right? Also in
Yeah.
Japan, Russia, China, England, Germany, and Canada and America, and also South Africa, South America, basically everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but you're also saying these are not these were genuine UAP, right? These are not drones that you are describing.
No, because it was like an orb. To be honest, that's what I figured out. It was just like a white light, like an orb, came
Yeah.
out of nowhere, like out of not nowhere, came out of the cloud. So I don't know the origin of that, but it was disappearing in the empty sky.
So I'm gonna play a clip from News Nation, and actually, so Johnny Law's not on. I actually forgot to change the title of our show, which is okay because I got some news. Our last show was actually taken off YouTube because of a News Nation clip, but I think I was playing too much of News Nation and too long. So I'm gonna do a really short clip of News Nation because it sort of ties into what you say, and then
Okay.
Okay. This is about the drones and the UAPs, and it's from News Nation.
Nobody I'm talking to thinks that these so-called drones are just prosaic terrestrial drone technology. If they are drones, they represent a level of technology that is far beyond our current known abilities. Some of them have been known to literally disappear and reappear in other parts of the sky almost immediately. They're moving at speeds far beyond known speeds of terrestrial drones. And they're also showing a morphing characteristic where in some cases, quite amusingly, they've changed their shape to make themselves look like animals. And the thing that I'm actually going to be doing a story about this, by the way, later in the week. You keep an eye on Reality Check because we've got far more to come on this. The thing that blows me away on this is the lies, and I do think we need to call this out, the absolute lies that are being told by the Defense Department, sadly, Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Aviation Administration. All of these agencies colluded in a press release in mid-December to falsely convey a narrative that these objects were just...
Okay, I'll stop there because I don't want to risk
That's
getting this show banned too.
yeah.
So this will actually be episode 27. So we'll stick with the title of that one with fake narratives and you have full UAP disclosure.
Yeah.
So
Just one, sorry, before we continue on this one, I just want to say when this thing was happening in the sky, there was no drones. And like 5 minutes later, there were like tons of drone in the sky. But that phenomena was disappeared.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because they are, even though they're sort of lying about what is happening, they are very interested in what is happening, even though they might not fully understand.
And they know something is happening. Government is aware of it, and you can see drones. And it's very easy to identify a drone and a plane, so they look totally different. Like they have a same shape, but drone is very easily recognizable. The
True.
lighting is very different of a drone.
And this is a statement from, I think, a New Jersey government official. I'll put it up here.
Is it a new one?
Yeah, a new one. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, point blank, Homeland Security said it's not us. The federal government told us point blank, these are not federal operations. Those two things were told to us point blank in a mayor's only briefing here in New Jersey, whereby our state of New Jersey, our own governor, couldn't get answers from the then Biden administration. I mean, come on, the Biden administration couldn't tell our governor, wink, wink, these are us, we're doing research, these are our drones. Come on. I mean, we're not accepting this anymore. And then we were on a mayor's only White House briefing where we were told, you're seeing things. There's nothing to see out there. We don't have not one credible threat of a report in the sky. Then the very next day, they actually convened a House Intelligence Committee, had a classified briefing that lasted 3.5 hours. Well, what did they talk about for 3.5 hours if, one, there's nothing to see here, or two, if our AA is saying, oh yeah, by the way, what, they forgot to tell us that those were our drones, that they have clearance and they have licenses to fly? The FAA was telling us here in New Jersey when they issued a ban in 26 different municipalities, which was then extended. By the way, it's no longer active. But they were telling us if they see a drone in the sky, they may take lethal action. Come on, why didn't they just tell us from the very beginning that it was theirs? I mean, I'm not buying it. I'm still waiting for that disclosure. I mean, sadly, I've been waiting for about 8 days. I didn't expect much from the Biden administration. I do.
Yeah, so this is actually also an older one because this same person, I think he's a governor from a certain district in New Jersey, or he's some kind of high official. I forgot his position.
Probably a mayor.
Yeah, some kind of mayor.
Yeah.
But he actually, in a recent interview with Ross Coulthart, he mentioned that the official statement from the Trump administration about the drones is also nonsense. And Ross Coulthart agrees because,
Disappointing.
yeah, it was very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I had so much high hopes for Trump's administration, but the way they tackled this information, it was like obvious lie. It was obvious lie. Because like it's verifiable lie. And then he
Yeah.
was saying it was approved by FAA. If it was, then why there was no information and why they closed the military base? Also, why didn't they inform the people at that time when there was like a big thing going on? If it was approved, then why didn't they tell us? Why they were shocked? So
Yep.
so disappointed.
Yeah, it was really disappointing, and you know, we still don't know. Trump put in a lot of interesting people in different offices. Most of them are very pro UAP disclosure. And Ross Coulthart also mentions that he's in contact with a lot of those people, and that they are pushing for disclosure at sort of the highest level. But you know, it's also a very sensitive area. I actually heard from my brother that Stephen Greer is about to talk with Trump. At least that's something that he heard. I'm not sure if that's true, but we're also going to talk about Stephen Greer a little bit, and about Jake Barber, of course, about telepathy, about religion. We're going to actually finally talk a little bit about religion, something that I wanted to do for a very long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of other stuff actually. So
yeah. Just before we continue, you tagged the wrong Sid again on the Twitter.
Yeah, it's because that's the one from last time.
Yes, from last week. Just
sorry about that. Actually, okay, I can't fix it. Oh, maybe I can.
We can't fix it now. Leave it.
I can still fix it. Wait. 1 second. I'm doing it while we're live.
Okay, no worries. But yeah, religious element is very important, and we can go into the religious conspiracies. Speaking of religion, I was talking to my mom, and she told me, because she believes in astrology, I don't. So,
cool.
So she was telling like a lot of astrologers are saying the world is about to change after May, and you will see crazier and crazier things which you have not experienced before.
Oh wow! Okay, well, you know, it is already pretty crazy, but
that looks like disclosure is coming after May.
Yeah, that sounds good. So okay, let's go to the next clip, and then we'll take it from there. I'm gonna use this SALT interview with Colonel Nell, and yeah, Colonel Carl Nell is very high in the military, U.S. military, and he did this SALT interview, but he also works for the Sol Foundation, and where he basically lines out similar things. But this is
our current understanding of physics. It would seem that technology would provide an incredible strategic advantage to whatever nation ends up reverse engineering it first. And so, to me, that would imply that there is a race happening to reverse engineer this, and that this topic would be a top priority. Do you agree with that?
So I think some of what you say is a reasonable conclusion to be drawn, and I've suggested something similar in past statements. The point here, though, is to go from a pre-disclosure to a post-disclosure world, maybe two stable states that are separated by an unstable middle ground. And so how you make that transition, again, you know, this speaks to the concern about this catastrophic disclosure. And this.
So that's basically sort of you know, the gist of what we wanted to talk about this today, also with Johnny Law, because I know that Johnny also has some views around this. So I selected some of these clips that sort of you know, tie into what he's you know, thinking about, and sort of combining our different views. Actually, I played this one before, like I think 10 or 10 or so episodes ago. This interview with Colonel, but what we are going to, and that sort of ties also into what you just said with that after May things will go, totally batshit crazy. I think we're already in crazy town, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Just to clarify, I didn't say that. My mom heard from an astrologer, so that's I
Well,
don't know.
I think she might be onto something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, things are already crazy with the tariffs and all this executive orders and the stuff with Canada and things will only get more and the strategic Bitcoin reserves and XRP maybe going into a reserve. I don't believe that latter, but you never know. I wouldn't be. I don't know. What do you think? Would XRP be added to a strategic reserve?
Well, they have to, I think, because what they want to achieve with Bitcoin, they cannot do it. So they need to find something else, right? Because Bitcoin is a slow blockchain and it's not good for traffic. So they need to find something else. And I think XRP is, I think, the next best thing because it's a US based company and they have like a long history. Also, I'm pretty sure they have given so much money, so much bribes to Trump's administration. And if anybody's saying they don't take bribes, you're a fool. It's very common in the politics. So I think it's going to be XRP, and I think there will be Solana for sure because I think the crypto czar is very pro Solana. So Solana is going to be something.
Solana, so Solana in the crypto reserve. Wow.
It is possible. I don't like. But it is very possible if XRP is going to be in there.
It is according to a recent chart that I saw, or a recent sort of graph. It is considered a US-based crypto. So as I understand it, they want to add especially US-centered cryptocurrencies, and then of course XRP is at the top of that list because it's based in San Francisco. Every founder is from America. They also they are also in line with regulation and legislation. Compliant. That was the word I'm searching for.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say about Solana, that the cryptos are David Sachs is a huge investor in Solana, and he according to his statement is Solana will overtake Ethereum, and he's the now crypto czar. So David Sachs is trying to do it. So Solana is going to do something for sure.
Yeah, and there will be Solana ETFs and XRP ETFs and Litecoin ETFs, and it will get really crazy really soon. And some people say that we're just at the edge, sort of this new, leg up. Others say we're going down. So
I think we just
financial.
I think we are coming out of a bear trap because it was a bear trap. Which what happened last week, all the drop. It was just like for sure. If you have sold anything, you're a fool. Just have to hold for next 2 weeks and you will see a crazy pump unless a new war starts. That's a whole different, then we can't do anything. But if everything stays the same, we are going to the moon.
And this is not financial advice. It can also go down, right? We don't know. We don't have a glass ball, crystal ball. But I tend to agree personally.
It's like if we are putting a percentage on that, I will say 80% chance we are going to the moon.
Yeah. But only put in money that you can afford to lose.
Yeah.
And never use leverage because you will be totally wrecked. So let's go to Crazy Town. I got a nice clip for that.
An anti-gravity beam took me up through a hole in the bottom of it.
You're telling me at 2 o'clock in the morning in Giant Rock Airport, you walked underneath this hovering ship and whammo, you went up
No,
inside.
you didn't go whammo. You went just about as slow as a local elevator run.
And when you got off the anti-gravity elevator, what did it look like?
I was inside of a ship about 18 feet in diameter and roughly 10 feet high to the domed ceiling, and there were 3 men on the ship, besides the one that had got off and invited me aboard.
You keep calling them man. What do you mean man?
Well,
Little green men?
they were about 5'6". They came about to my eyebrows, and they could have walked in our clothes down any of our streets, and we wouldn't have paid any attention to them.
What color were these people?
They looked like they were white people with a good, healthy tan.
Did they give you any indication of how old they were, or what they ate, or where they came from at all?
After we got off the ship, the man who invited me aboard, who didn't look a day over 28 years of age, told me that he was over 700 years of age in our time.
Oh, come off it, George.
That's right.
He gained some followers and they set up the first UFO religion, the Ministry of Universal Wisdom. There are so many UFO religions, and it's a crazy rabbit hole to go down. You might know Scientology, or Raelianism, or Heaven's Gate. But Van Tassel's Ministry of Universal Wisdom was the first alien cult. It was claimed...
So, we're gonna dive into this crazy stuff because there's a lot of craziness here, and even though it is totally insane the first time you hear it, there's actually some really interesting rabbit holes to follow.
Yeah.
We actually this clip is from one that we did before about the broadcasting in the UK that got interrupted by the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of from this one. But when you sort of look into UAP religions and what they say, I actually watched a documentary about Raelianism. It's like also a tongue breaker. And these people were sort of so it was a UAP religion, and there's many other UAP religions, and they sort of believed that they had contact. So the founder had a contact with the UAP, is what he said. And then he started this movement in, I think, the 80s or 90s. I think the late 80s. And then, it became famous. And, they even started racing sports cars. And at some point they became, they were sort of hounded out of France because they were based in France. And then they moved to Canada. And Canada was apparently very open to this kind of thing. And I recently heard that Canada has a very close, they keep a very close tab on everything that has to do with UFOs and UFO religions. And, but anyway, so...
No, Canada, by the way, have like the biggest satanic religion as well. Nobody knows. Like witches and warlocks, they literally have wars here, like battles. It's real in West Coast, especially near me. Not in Vancouver, but in Vancouver Islands. There's like a famous story where witches and warlocks were fighting. So we are like not we, but like a lot of people here are crazy. But when I see a UFO religion, I think it's clearly bullshit. Somebody is scamming. It's just a cult, a fake cult. So it's not a religion to start. That's my opinion to start with, so everybody knows where we both stand, and then we can talk about this.
Okay, but we're gonna explore this issue. Okay, first of all, let's go through the list of some of these religions. You got the Seekers, this Epherius Society, the Extragalactic Command, some Chinese.
They have the years as well. Okay.
Yeah, some Chinese ones. Heaven's Gate is a famous one, of course, but also the Nation of Islam apparently has a UAP connection. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, they are very infamous people. Nation of Islam is a US country anyway.
And on this one,
wait, what is realism? Look at their logo. That's like Judaism and Nazism combined.
That I flew up. Which one?
Go realism.
Yeah. So this one I watched. This has a documentary on Netflix. I recommend watching that. It's 4 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, and it's about the founder Rael. And he actually went to Israel, and then the Israelis didn't want to hear anything about this because they wanted to create sort of a landing patch for UAPs to sort of welcome them and receive them on Earth. So it was sort of like a hippie movement, and we already sort of established or at least that there might be a flower power hippie connection to this whole thing.
This guy is not a hippie. This guy is stupid because the look at just like the logo. It's super offensive to Jews. I'm not a Jew, but I feel like this is not true. Like you can't combine Nazis and Judaism together in one logo. They are like polar opposites.
Anyway, watch the documentary. It's a really nicely done documentary, and it also sort of highlights the both sides of the question, both skeptics and critics, and but also supporters, and then of course Scientology is the most famous one.
Yeah.
So this is sort of to give you an idea of the landscape. There's also some interesting books written about it. UFO Religions is the most important one. And what is also important to know is that, like I said, the Canadian government, but also U.S. intelligence agencies keep very close steps on UAP religions. I have to look that one up, but where I've heard that. But let's go to Scientology, because there's some really...
All praises to Xenu.
Yes.
You know their god is Xenu, who is an alien.
Yeah, I actually got that one open here.
Okay, let's start with that.
Okay, wait. I'll open that one first. For people who don't know, they have a really crazy idea about what happened. If you watch South Park actually did a really cool show on Scientology. And then sort of at the highest level of disclosure or revelation or knowledge that they have in the Scientology church, you get this revelation of Xenu, of like a giant cigar-shaped UFO that sort of landed on Earth, and it's a really crazy story. It sort of reads like a science fiction novel, but so that's the crazy part. But there's some more crazy stuff connected to Scientology that I wasn't aware of. But let's dive into it.
Is that I was asked to be the attorney for L. Ron Hubbard.
You were?
In the Church of Scientology.
No way.
Yeah.
So how would you connect Scientology and remote viewing? I mean, I know Hal Puthoff was a Scientologist for some time, but...
Hal Puthoff was, and so was Pat Price, and so was Ingo Swann, were high-level clears of the Church of Scientology. The FBI and the Justice Department in New York subpoenaed the top 10 people in the Church of Scientology in New York and ordered them to come in front of a grand jury. And they were going to be interrogating them in front of the grand jury. They called me again, and I went up to New York because I'm admitted in the Southern District, and I got an injunction shutting them down. So they couldn't do that because it was totally unconstitutional again. And so they were so sort of enamored of me that they talked with Ron Hubbard, and Ron Hubbard wanted to have me be the lawyer for them, with him and his wife, Susan, against the IRS, that whole thing they were doing. So I said that, look, I wouldn't even meet with Ron Hubbard unless there was a condition precedent that I could be given access to every single document anywhere in the world.
So that's the opening shot. So for the people who don't know Daniel Sheehan, he's a very famous attorney. He did numerous legal cases of public interest, including the Pentagon Papers, the Watergate break-in case, the Silkwood case, and the Greensboro massacre case, and a lot of others. So he's like a very high-level up attorney, world famous, and he also has a Vatican connection because he is a Jesuit, which is also very interesting. But he's not just anybody. He's like a world-renowned person. He's not a crazy person. Well,
he looks crazy because of his hair, but he is very intelligent.
yeah. But the stuff that he's talking about is, of course, batshit crazy. But
I just want to answer about the Scientology, that they get more attention because they have all the celebrities. Like they were mentioning big names here, and then even in Hollywood, biggest star like Tom Cruise and so many others are a part of it. So when you have that kind of a cult, you will get attention.
True.
In one of the files in front of me, and I started looking at it, and it was all reports by Ingo Swann.
No way.
Ingo Swann was filing reports with the head Guardian office in the UK about the entire internal operations of the Office of Naval Intelligence remote viewing program that they were doing. He was just giving them all the information.
So he was a spy or something?
Yeah, well, he was a spy for the Church of Scientology.
For the Church of Scientology?
Over and against the Office of Naval Intelligence.
Why would he do that?
Because he was a high-level clear. That was his loyalty group. His
so
fundamental loyalty.
He was loyal to them prior to...
That's right. That's right. Over and above
Because I always thought Putoff was like looking into that stuff, because he was like an NSA guy before he was a Scientology guy. So I thought Putoff was just like tasked to like looking into this, very, para-governmental intelligence organization that is Scientology, that's seen as a threat, and so get Putoff in there.
No, this was the stuff. I mean, the Church of Scientology, you're not aware of it, that their highest principle in the Church of Scientology is all to do with UFOs.
Really?
So, they believe that there is a major confrontation going on between the human-like people from the Pleiades over and against the reptilians from Zeta Reticuli, and that there's a major confrontation going on over which of them is going to actually assert.
So that is about Hal Puthoff and Ingo Swann, that they were actually Scientology members before they started Stargate and all that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. I wasn't fully aware of that fact.
To be honest, I wasn't aware that these guys were a part of it. Like Hal Puthoff is like a big name. I didn't know that he was a Scientologist. And Ingle Swann, like one of the best remote viewer in the world.
And Pat Price.
Pat Price. Actually, Pat Price is the guy who faked his death basically and started a covert CIA remote viewing program.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Because in that interview with Skip Atkinson, with Sean Ryan, which everybody, if you haven't seen that interview, go watch it. Because Skip Atkinson was actually the one who founded or put together the first crew of Project Stargate. So and how he got involved with the CIA is in itself a very interesting story. And how he views reality and dreams and all that kind of stuff is also super fascinating. But he mentions, like what you say, is that while Project Stargate was running, there was also a dark version or a black version of Project Stargate, and they were taking the most promising members of Project Stargate into the black version of Project Stargate. And after it got closed down, Sean Ryan asked him, did they continue in secret? And then Skip Atkinson say, we got 5 programs up and running.
Yeah.
Right. So, so that's very interesting. And Pat Price. So when he was sort of asked to speculate about the fact of Pat Price lives or is not alive, he runs through a couple of scenarios. I think 4 of them. And then and he sort of ends with the last one that he ends with is what you said, that Pat Price's death was probably faked. And Pat Price was super good. Actually, Daniel Sheehan mentions Pat Price, and he says that the U.S. Naval Intelligence used Pat Price to locate nuclear submarines.
Yeah.
So they gave them, for example, in that same interview that I just shared, they gave him the locations of where they sort of thought, these things were located, and then Pat Price was able to remote view those places, and which is also very interesting in connection to what we're going to talk about, is that then at that locations UAPs appeared where Pat Price was remote viewing, and he got the targets correct and the descriptions correct, and all that kind of stuff. So Pat Price is a very interesting remote viewer, and he's on the same level as Joe McMonagle and Ingo Swann.
Yeah, I think these are the main 3 names which come out of that program: Pat Price, Ingo Swann, and Joe McMonagle. Joe is my favorite because he did my favorite remote viewing. That's what I can say, because viewing Mars and then the alien base on Earth, Both of them were done by, I think, by Joe. And then Ingersoll is a total different story. What I notice about Ingersoll and Joe McMonagle, that they are not easy to buy. Pat Price has a price. Even in his name it is. So I think somebody could offer him a lot of money and then you can get him. Joe McMonagle was a free soul, I guess. I don't know much about Ingersoll because I think he died very early.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Scientology connection is of course super interesting.
Yeah.
Plus, why did Ross Coulthard? So there's a couple of religious groups that are, so you got, for example,
Even
Collins.
sorry, before we continue, even Catholics have a big telescope. They are looking up in the sky. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I wanted to say, like, there's a lot of sort of religious connections to the intelligence community and the Department of Defense and sort of the people who run these UAP classified organizations and are sort of pushing for disclosure and stuff. So the Catholic Church, as you mentioned, is like very high up in that list, and there you are. So the Catholics, but also the Mormons, which also have like their founder also, when you sort of look at the religious text, so the founder basically had sort of like an alien message, sort of that's sort of in there, baked into their religion. So they also have this sort of extraterrestrial angle to their religion. So the Mormons are very interested in this and very active within this field. The Catholics are very interested and active in this field. Then you have the Scientologists who are very active in this field. And then you have the Collins elite, which frame this whole issue into angels and demons, which are probably more Protestant-based people. So those are sort of the four major religious groups that are at the helm. And they're keeping close track and tabs on UAP religions all over the world as they sort of originate and what they're up to. And then from those UAP religions, it's very interesting to see that they, when you sort of look into them, they have a very flower power, hippie kind of vibe going on most of the time. And the sort of the people, the gurus or founders or spiritual leaders or whatever you want to call them, they often have this sort of loving message, like they encountered a UAP which was full of love, and that we have to spread that love all over the world. And the realisms, whatever you
realism, I guess.
They also believed in sort of cloning. So they were like the first groups who were very vocal about sort of a technological revolution that was just around the corner, and that we should go full into cloning and embracing technology, and but also taking care of the planet. And sort of when you look at the issues with flower power and the hippie movement, they were anti-nuclear. Now, so the nuclear connection and radiation connection with UAPs is extremely strong. Like we did multiple shows about that. Then there's this recent revelation that communication and encounters with UAPs has to do with radiation, or sort of expresses itself through radiation, as the immunologist, world-renowned immunologist Gary Nolan, he did a recent interview again with Ross Coulthard, where he sort of explains sort of the marks on Jake Barber's body, but also on other experiencers. And then you had that other guy, I forgot his name, who worked closely with Hal Puthoff, who mentions that, also with Skinwalker, that sort of this radiation that people experience has to do with information that sort of goes through the body and that expresses itself as radiation. So the love thing that Jake Barber also expresses in his News Nation interview, well, that's apparent in all the cases. Taking care of the planet is, all over the place. I had some other things that I wrote down here. Okay. So of course, also the psionic, that people think that they can telepathically communicate with these things. They are often non-materialist. They have also close connections with psychedelics in general, and they have this naked innocence. And the innocence connection is also very interesting because, as we know now from different places, also with the telepathy tapes, or at least the neuroscientist who's leading those who's leading that research, but also from the remote viewing and the Stanford Research Institute, that and the revelations from Jake Barber that young children, pubescent children, have that they're highly capable of sort of communicating telepathically, and that these sort of abilities that are probably innate or latent within humans, that they are mostly expressed by sort of innocent young children before they probably become stamped down with the materialist thinking. And I think it was also Thomas Campbell in Joe Rogan who said that you can actually teach children to remote view in like 10 minutes. Actually, courses that you can do if you have a child. But left-handed gay people and women are sort of the top people to sort of that are sort of identified by the U.S. Military intelligence agencies. And then within the interview with Jake Barber, he also mentioned the GATE project. And the GATE project was a project that was led by the US military intelligence community to take high potential children out of the school system and to probably research and employ them within these psionic asset programs. And so there is a really interesting connection going on there. And I actually want to play one more clip from Daniel Sheehan, and that's this one.
History or something? That feels like sort of a paradigm shift.
No, it is a paradigm shift. But that doesn't mean you're at the end of history. It means that there's sort of a full glottal jump, in consciousness. That's what's happening right now. And it's generating a lot of instability, and people are becoming, disconnected to reality and not trusting in facts anymore, and speculating wildly and trying to figure out what's going on. And the UFO phenomenon is an integral part of that. And the whole relationship of psychic capacities of our human family are directly related to this, and the whole issue of religions, trying to figure out, whether there's some new religion that is birthing here that relates this. But remember that religion, the Latin root of religion is religare, which is like to relink. And ever since the evolution of the intellect in our species of Homo sapiens, the intellectus, the Latin root of intellectus is the ability to distinguish the difference between. And so that we've been able to experientially experience the difference between ourselves and all the rest of our environment, and that we've developed an intellect that is able to manipulate that in kind of computer.
Yeah, so basically, what we just talked about, with Carl Nell, and Carl Nell, in that interview, the SALT interview, he sort of points out that we're at this phase in human, in the phase of human history, where we are about to make a phase transition. Right, so that's what he's talking about. You got a stable position here and a stable position there, and to get over here, you have an unstable period over there. And then sort of the question that he's sort of posing in that interview is like, how do we cross the chasm, right? Because how do we get from one stable position to the other stable position? So, and that's also what Daniel Sheehan is talking about here, right? Because humanity is, according to him, going through, a religious, spiritual phase transition where we are sort of reconnecting, probably with our, psychic selves, and that will create a lot of instability and confusion and wild speculation, as we are doing right here, which is a lot of fun, right? I mean, that's also why we're doing it, because it's like one giant rabbit hole with so many moving parts and pieces of the puzzle. It's just fun to put them all together, right? And but it is speculation, right? Let's be honest. But
it is speculation. But speaking of speculation, if we are talking about UFO religion, we cannot forget the first religion, the Anunnakis, Sumerians. Their whole story, according to Zachariah Sitchin, is based on aliens from the planet called Nibiru, who came here and engineered the humans to mine gold for them. So that's a whole lore. We can do a whole show on that if you want. But this is like the beginning of the religion, and it's like not just like people are assuming, it's written on the cuneiforms. Like we have found the tablets where this story is written. A lot of people are saying that Zachariah Sitchin is mistranslating it, but okay, fine. But still, there is like one notion, and that makes more sense. And especially if you look at the Sumerians' diagram of the solar system, makes more sense that they came out of somewhere. Because they have drawn, it's like the first depiction of solar system. How did they know if they just made that thing up? There is some truth to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Sitchin probably made a lot of mistakes. He wasn't sort of a translator from his own background. He was hobbyist, a professional hobbyist, of course. Somebody with sort of a very interest in this whole area. But he was, I think, originally an economist. From his background, I think he studied at the London School of Economics, and then he sort of got interested into this whole field and started sort of looking into these ancient languages, and so he must have been very smart in order to translate those things sort of by himself. So he was clearly not stupid, right? So
he was definitely not stupid, but I'm just saying, like, his story makes more sense and give us a different perspective, and then it's backed by the solar system photo, because this whole story is about that solar system depiction, that there are 9 planets and 10th planet, and that they came from the 10th planet. So there is like a whole story into that.
Yeah, no, definitely it's definitely worth looking into, and it's definitely also something that we're gonna do. And maybe this, I actually have this clip, a clip that I wanted to play for like 3 episodes, but I keep, I got it ready.
Let's play it, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I want to sort of talk about it a little bit before I play it, because, it sort of ties into what you're talking about, and it also ties into religion, and especially ancient religions, and this sort of UAP connection, right? Because, Sitchin makes a lot of crazy, for most people, crazy claims about Nibiru, and that that we were working for alien overlords harvesting gold, and then or Scientology, that a giant cigar-shaped craft dropped us off. You got so many crazy claims that people think like, okay, why the hell are we even talking about this? So I got this clip from a really cool documentary which is called Barabar. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it after the show. I'll also drop the link in the comments. But so, why am I playing it? In this documentary, which is about Emperor Asoka, who was one of the most famous Indian emperors, and he sort of founded or helped found Buddhism, or made it sort of like a state religion under his rule. He lived about 230-ish or 260 years before the Common Era. And there were some chambers, and they are associated with him because he inscribed his name into those chambers. And that's why they think he made those chambers, but he never in any of those descriptions or inscriptions he mentions that he created them. He just sort of gave them to some pilgrims to shelter against the rain. Well, now we have a lot of new technology like LiDAR and lasers, and you got interdisciplinary research, and you got the internet. So internet, information travels super fast, and you got new people with a lot of wealth through crypto, and they're financing a lot of this new research. And they scanned those chambers because they're pretty strange. And this is the result from those scans. So these are 200 years before Christ.
With 3 to 6 scans per chamber, each defined by millions of points, i.e. 1 point every millimeter, with a precision of around 2.5 millimeters plus or minus. This inaccuracy means that the volumes of space vary proportionally, with much less impact on angles. AGP then assembled all the point clouds for each chamber. These point clouds represent the chambers in 3 dimensions without any optical distortion.
You'd think it was actually a geometric 3D model. You see a 3-dimensional image, like an MRI, what exists. Once we have it in 3 dimensions, we slice it up, like an MRI, to understand and interpret.
So these are not computer-generated representations, but exact reconstructions, which can be seen most clearly in the scans of the unfinished Lomas Rishi and Visvasopri chambers.
It's unfinished or modified, we don't know. You can see straight away that the capture is real, and on all the others, it's the same thing. Just because it looks like something perfectly geometrical doesn't mean it's a fake, no. It's reality as measured by the metrological device.
When the previous film was completed, AGP provided us with some floor plans, telling us that these chambers were all symmetrical in length. Symmetrical? If you didn't jump at the mention of the word, it's because you don't yet know exactly what it implies. Symmetrical means that you can cut the chambers in half lengthways and superimpose each part exactly on the other, the left half on the right, and vice versa. If you did this with your apartment, it's likely that the space would not be symmetrical, as precision tolerances in modern construction vary by a few centimeters. But to quantify these symmetries, we needed the detailed scan analysis report. It's a 40-page dossier of figures and findings, some of which we're going to share with you. AGP warns of noise due to highly reflective surfaces that make measurements slightly blurred.
There's a mirror effect on it, and this mirror effect will reflect the laser, giving it that measurement noise.
Striations also appear in various places, but they don't exist in reality.
Precisely. It's the measurement noise that we're seeing here. You get the impression that the markings here are very deep, whereas we're talking about 5.
Yeah, so anyway, I recommend this whole documentary, watch it. It becomes really interesting from 38 minutes onwards. The first 38 minutes is about more of the history and sort of the location and the background of these chambers. And they also talk with famous Indologists, people who studied Indian heritage and history. So they also talk in this documentary, and they give their perspective. And then from about 38 minutes in, they start measuring showing the results of the laser measurements in all these different chambers. Now, this stuff is super mind-blowing. I'll sort of spoil it a little bit. As you can see, the chambers are fully symmetrical, and they almost they don't have any faults in them. And what the different people, because they interview like 8 or 10 different specialists in their field, from masons to engineers and construction builders, and they even asked them to sort of grade those chambers. And now 9 out of 10 people give that chamber a 10, or some give it 100. There's only one person who gives the chambers an 8. And he's the mason. But basically what they're saying is, like, to create this chamber, or these chambers, because there's multiple chambers, first of all, they are in granite, right? So these are cut out of granite, these chambers. And secondly, right, in order to make that perfect geometrical shape, and the walls are also sloped, they're not straight, they're sloped at an exact angle, you have 0 room to make a mistake. And you couldn't cut them out you should sort of start at the beginning of the chamber and know exactly where you end on the chamber, and then you got these different chambers in different locations, and they also form a geometrical shape together with each other with like 0.001 millimeter of error. So it's I just watched the documentary. The point, the bigger point is like, what they say in the documentary, the specialists who are, at the top of their field in engineering, you would need billions of dollars in today's money, and basically aerospace technology in order to create these kind of rooms. And then, it might not work, but they say there's a chance that we could create something like that with that kind of money and that kind of technology. But otherwise, it's impossible.
Yeah, people don't realize what it is, like how crazy that is.
Yeah. No,
because they look so simple, like a room, but when you analyze it, oh my God, that's something we cannot create.
Yeah, and and that was then let's say 200 to 300 years before Christ, right? So how the hell did they build something like that back then? They didn't.
Maybe they had a 3D printer. It's very easy to do it from a 3D printer.
Yeah. Well, it's granite, right? So it's not easy. And then people are speculating with
okay,
maybe
alien 3D printer which prints in granite.
Well, anyway,
I'm just joking.
No, but sort of, to tie it into our discussion, right? We're talking about ancient religions and, these, crazy sects that are speculating about UFO contact and, speaking to religious leaders, making contact with them. So there's actually evidence in our past, which is now coming to light because of these new technologies, the internet, communication, interdisciplinary research, and a sort of new openness to this whole phenomena that shows that these people might actually have had contact with something else, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, now there are two things, right? There is aliens from outer space and then aliens from interdimension. Interdimensional aliens is like oldest lore in the Indian subcontinent. They have like jinns and bhoots and all those creatures who came out of nowhere. They look like demons. Some are demons, some are good, and they had a contact. So there's like a lot of stories where they have mentioned about the other creatures who were helping sometimes, who were sometimes fighting. So there are two types of creatures. Maybe they are the interdimensional alien, or maybe a space alien. Who knows, right? There are like theories. Like those mythical creatures. Maybe they were real. It's just not in. Maybe after Christ, I think after Jesus Christ, they stopped coming for a reason. But I think now they're coming back.
Oh, let's go a little bit deeper in the religious realm. Again, Daniel Sheehan.
All this other stuff. There's all this other strange phenomenon that goes on our planet that exists at this other level of insight, such as the capacities of our human family to have telepathy and teleportation and astral travel and remote viewing and transmutation of matter. But what we've done is we've culturally riveted on some of these beings in the past, like Jesus or Lao Tzu or the Buddha, and say, wow, look what these individuals have done. And what they do is they build up a complete religion around these people. And then a tenet of the religion is that you can't do this.
Yeah.
This one individual person could do this.
Yeah.
And therefore there's something super non-human about them. They're transcendental. They're spiritual. They're from
untouchable.
They're from some other domain somewhere. It's not true. What they are is they're mutations of our human family. That as this faculty is evolving in our human family, certain individuals have it more fully evolved than others, and they attract attention when this happens. That's what's going on. And as I say, this is another element that really intelligent, thinking, careful people who are not ignorant are interested in.
So you're saying it's almost the meta layer to, or the source code of religion in some way.
Yeah, so this is also very interesting, right? So you wanted to say Diana Pasolko is also, a Catholic researcher, very interesting lady.
Speaking of her, there's like a recent podcast with Sean Ryan came out, so everybody should go and watch that.
Yeah, there's some really interesting interviews with Diana Pasolka. She also wrote some really interesting books. I'm looking at them right here. It is American Cosmos and Encounters. By now, I got a pretty big UAP library. I think I got like 20 books by now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I actually waited. The new book from Louis Elizondo just came in yesterday, Imminent. About sort of the revelations from inside the Pentagon, because Louis Elizondo is, of course, famous within the UAP community and also notorious. Some say he is a counterintelligence. He is counterintelligence, of course.
Maybe he's like Richard Doherty of the future or something.
Yeah, but he led ATIP and OSEP. He was connected to. He was connected to ATIP, but he was also sort of linked to OSEP, and those were Pentagon-run UAP research groups, and he's now sort of revealing his story inside that book, and of course all these books are cleared by the Department of Defense through a DOPSA process, and some within the UAP community sort of point out, I think rightly so, that that's a controlled narrative right there, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't even be cleared through the Department of Defense. But apparently some people within the Department of Defense and Intelligence wants this information to get out. And I think those people are people like Christopher Mellon and Carl Nell and others, and sort of the Puthoff faction. They are pushing for a controlled disclosure and probably a certain narrative that fits their agenda. And that's also something Carl Nell also talks about, right? Why should we sort of reveal this information to the public? And he says sort of like there's 6 reasons why you shouldn't reveal it. One reason is national security, so that has to do with geopolitics and technological advantage, right? So that's sort of the national security angle. But he also says, some people don't want to reveal this information because they don't have a plan. So a lack of a plan is another one. He says some people fear potential societal disruption. So that's another reason not to reveal it. Then there's, of course, misdeeds and cover-ups. That's, I think, in my opinion, the biggest reason why this doesn't, why the people are pushing back against disclosure. He also mentions organizational intransigence. Basically, that things within the government are not, functioning efficiently, and there's like, there's not enough momentum. You need momentum to push this forward. And then there's another reason for the possibility of a non-public agreement between public and private enterprises, which of course is also a really big one and sort of ties into the misdeeds and cover-up, right? Because apparently, if you believe David Grush and Jake Barber and many others and Louis Elizondo, the U.S. government basically entered into public-private agreements with, probably, we don't know because it's pure speculation, but entities like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Raytheon, right? I don't know. That's just what they say. That they had to, because the public side, the government side is not really good at reverse engineering or, developing technology. You need the private side in order to develop these and discover these technologies. And then, of course, there's also the FOIA side of this thing. If it's a public agency, then you can get access to that information through FOIA requests. And if it's in private hands, then you can voya whatever you want, but you will never get the information. So these are sort of the 6 reasons why he thinks that the information was sort of held back. And there were also reasons. Okay, so and he also mentions 4 reasons why you should review it. So the first is like the moral reason. So people have a right to know in what kind of universe they live. So if there's something like non-human intelligence, and Ross Coulthard has sort of gleaned from all these informants that there are at least 8 types of craft and 6 types of species that are interacting with humanity. And of course, he says he doesn't know because this is just information that he heard. But anyway, humanity has a right to know if that is in fact the case, especially if these non-human intelligence are, have superhuman abilities and are, directing human evolution in some form or shape. Then there's the misdeeds. If there are any misdeeds, they need to be brought to light, and the people who have, committed murder or whatever, they need to be brought to justice. Ross Coulthard also points out that you would need a truth and reconciliation in order to get this information out there, right? Because otherwise the whistleblowers and the people from the inside don't want to go out because they might get punished, for a cover-up that lasted 80 plus years.
We have to make a compromise here. We cannot punish the misdeeds, so let's just make a compromise, release everything, and give immunity to everyone for now. Let's just say forgive, but come out and tell the truth. That's the only way I see it, because if we try to pursue them, then they will never speak, because nobody want to go in jail.
Yeah, and as the inspired, or as we call him, Paul McNeil.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, these are, of course, rumors, as I said, right? And as ChatGPT points out, there's at the moment no publicly available evidence proving that Lockheed Martin has access to or is studying alien technology. I'll put it on here as a disclaimer. I fully agree. And then, of course, there's the lack of oversight, right? A lack of oversight, if any of this is true, would lead to crime and corruption, but also inefficiencies, right? And a lot of government spending that goes down a drain. And then the 4th reason to disclose it. So these are 4 reasons to disclose it, is to go from a reactive to a proactive plan, right? So a reactive is that you have no plan, that you're just reacting, and that you're preventing disclosure in any way you can. And that could actually lead to catastrophic disclosure, because if this momentum keeps building and you're just reacting, that at some point you lose control. To a proactive plan, that you actually have a plan, which would be a controlled disclosure. And that's, of course, in my opinion, what we have been seeing the past 10 years now. And Ross Coulthard is leading the charge in the controlled narrative. Because if you sort of follow Reality Check, and before that he did Need to Know with Bryce, he doesn't do Need to Know anymore. But they are sort of drip feeding us information about UAPs, which is now turning into a floodgate. But all the people
it's not working, to be honest, the control one, because there's so many stupid shit going on. They are not releasing the proper information. I think it's useless. So I think we need a catastrophic disclosure at this point. Whatever is happening right now is catastrophic one, because controlled disclosure wasn't working. So Stephen Greer is taking some steps on his own and doing that.
Yeah.
And speaking of question from Inspirer, that do you guys think aliens are evil? I think some of them are and some of them are not. There's 2 groups of aliens. One of them is evil, one of them, or maybe both of them, are doing for their own thing, because I think evil and good is a very binary thing. I don't believe in that. I think they are people like us, so there's some good in them and some bad in them. But yeah, they are working for their own purpose, for their own benefit, they don't care. If they have to remove us, they will, but I don't think that's their plan. So we still need to wait and see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think also, sort of the framework, good and evil, doesn't really work, at least not for me, because you would have to define. You have to define the terms, right? What is good, what is evil. Right? These are very abstract terms that actually don't have real content unless you start off,
Yeah, it can only be used in the form of God and Satan, but other than that, for when you're talking about mortals, I don't think, because we have tendency to do good and evil at the same time, and most of the people do that. Like everyone do some evil acts and some good acts, so we need to wait and see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, but also, right? I mean, if you sort of study philosophy, you got these ethical and moral frameworks, and when you sort of, and you know that too, right? I mean, we talked about that, I think, 2 episodes ago. Islam, for example, has a very different sort of moral framework than, I don't know, let's call it Shintoism or Aztecs. That, for example, the Aztecs used to throw people out off stairs after they ripped out their beating heart, right? So that's not really, we wouldn't consider that very moral, and play football with their cut off heads, right? So,
but in general, like all religion, no, I'm not, because Aztec is like a whole different thing. But if I talk about Christianity, Islam, or even Hinduism and Buddhism, the moral framework is similar. There are minor differences, but the basic things are kind of similar
well,
in the mainstream
things
religion.
are similar. But anyway, yeah, but I agree. Like, we probably get the message from on higher, right? There's something that we are connecting to, and then some sort of moral framework. You can sort of distill like commonalities, and that's like sort of the overarching moral framework. But there are also dissimilarities, like differences, and those differences might seem small, but they can, it's like the butterfly effect. Small differences can lead to really.
But again, the differences comes when you go in the sources of those religions. For example, the main one, the Christianity and Islam, the biggest one, the source is the same, because like they are from Semitic side of the religion, Middle East. Both of them came out of Middle East, so there are a lot of similarities. And then when you compare Buddhism and Hinduism, they came from the South Asia, so their similarities are simple.
Yeah, true. But
yeah, so I think the origin is, wherever you go closer to the origin, you will find more similarities. But in general, there is like main thing: do not kill people. It's in all four of them. Like everyone is equal, something like that. But
under certain conditions,
and that's
if certain conditions are met.
yeah, exactly. If certain conditions are met. What this is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, this is true. Well, we have to wait and see about the aliens regarding that. Regarding the question that do you think they came to Earth to get something? I don't think there is anything special on Earth which they cannot find in the outer space.
Well, that's
other than human souls.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, I think by now, I think we can answer some of these questions. Like, why would they come to Earth?
Yeah.
Well, if humanity has a latent psi ability, as these sources claim, and these people like Jake Barber, I wanted to also say that he was backed up. So he's not just anybody. Like, if you look into the background of Jake Barber, and I recommend watch the whole interview, because the extended, unredacted whole interview with Jake Barber, he has been backed up by veterans in the field, Green Berets, Delta Force, Air Force veterans, like Fred Baker, Don Paul Bales, and Colonel John Blitch. They've all come out, and others that sort of say that Jake Barber is who he says he is. He has also, got these. He has also been, what you call it. He sort of got a medal or a recognition by NATO. So he is who he says he is. And then Colonel John Blitch, for example, in the interview that Ross Coulthard did with John Blitch, he also had an encounter with UAPs. So that encounter that he relates in that interview is also mind blowing. And he also mentions that what some experiences have had after UAP encounter is that they had this fake memory implanted, that they are missing time. So he had missing time, and he had a fake memory, probably implanted or however that works, suggested to him, which doesn't make any sense when you sort of hear him relate the story. But this person was like a Green Beret and connected to the Delta, high up into was sort of managing Delta Force. So it's like he got flashed. Yeah, probably. Yeah, from the Man in Black. So anyway, so what I want to say is, when you sort of go into what Jake Barber was saying, and others, and also the telepathy tapes, that certain people and probably everybody has these abilities to for telepathy, remote viewing. The Russians claimed that they could even kill people at a distance with their mind. Their psionic assets, as they are called, apparently, or psionic assists.
Or they could have a direct energy weapon, right?
Yeah, so you can weaponize it, right? That's something that we pointed out in the last one. If people have this ability, and you can control people, then you could, maybe train a population and turn them into a super weapon or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, and with that's also interesting. I don't have a clip here, but it's important to, I think, point out. So Skywatcher also has a YouTube channel. It's called Skywatcher. This is from Jake Barber. So Jake Barber has started this private enterprise, I think, with his own money. Yeah. And they are gonna demonstrate these abilities that people have. They are about to.
I think they even have a video of one of their men was meditating and controlling the egg in the sky. They have the video in Ross Coulthard. So they are doing that.
Yeah,
and they are derived from that CE5 of Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
Just want to give that background of it.
And I think you also sent me the interview with Gary Nolan. So Gary Nolan is he's one of the top immunologists in the world, right? So he has an impeccable record. Yeah. And he was one of the witnesses during one of those summonings. Yeah. And he so he was there to sort of validate and verify that it was actually true. And he said in the interview with Ross Coulthard that indeed a UAP appeared or seemed to appear during those summonings, even though that he didn't saw it himself. A person who was there on the roof, saw the UAP, and he also recorded it with the equipment, and the equipment was all tested, and the results were all tested. So there was a very tough sort of scientific screening to sort of the entire setup, and he confirmed that a UAP showed itself. But anyway, so and this whole thing is just getting started. We got a lot of questions here, also from Zombie.
Yeah, let's just answer them, and we'll end it after the questions.
Yeah, let's. I have to scroll back a little bit because I think we missed a couple here. Do you think they are here just to check us out? Well, we sort of already talked about that.
I answered that one, yeah. Because I was looking at that question.
Yeah, and I think also there's also another reason apart from human beings and our psionic abilities, and maybe perhaps certain materials on Earth or perhaps living conditions. But you also have the plasma. So if you dive into the plasma research that I talked about last time with the New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple, that book is mind-blowing. So those are sort of Nobel Prize-winning scientists who did a lot of plasma research, and I'm almost done with the book now. But apparently, the Earth is very special because it also has a gigantic plasma field around it that human beings perhaps tap into, and that probably or might have guided evolution.
But plasma is not unique to Earth. That's what I'm
No.
saying. Like, it's available everywhere in
True.
the universe.
True,
So
but
I think if they come to Earth for a specific reason, that can't be something which is vastly available everywhere.
True, yeah, but the plasma fields are different, right? So even though 99% of the universe consists of plasma, and plasma, for the people who want to know, is non-physical matter. So you got physical matter, that's what we are.
Normal matter,
Yeah,
planets,
that is
everything.
planet Earth, and that is us. But
Yeah.
you have also non-physical matter, and that's plasma, and that consists of negative charged electrons and positive charged ions and protons, and dust, granular dust and space dust, and all sort of kinds of dust which form crystals and lattices, and are part of a magnetic field. So basically, if you ever saw Ghostbusters, that's it.
Yeah. Also, I think plasma, another way of defining it is between solid and gas, something between that.
Well, yeah, but it can actually take different. Just to give an example of plasma, the sun is plasma. Some of our larger planets are plasma.
Yeah. Well,
But
sun is kind of plasma. There's like mostly hydrogen and helium. They are gases. There is plasma.
no, yeah, that's when they sort of go into what the sun actually is. Because the official narrative is that it's like hydrogen, but according to the plasma scientists, it's not hydrogen. So
I need to go and research into that, because last I read is like helium and hydrogen. Well, they always change the stuff, right? Because we don't have a sample, so that's like we are assuming stuff over there.
Yeah. So it's the corona outside of the sun that is millions of degrees warm, right?
Yeah.
That's like really hot. And then as you get closer to the sun, the temperature actually drops. They did measurements. Don't ask me how they did the measurements, but as you get closer to the sun, the temperature drops. There's sort of the surface of the sun, the photosphere, I think it's called, or the chromosphere, one of the two, is 4 times the temperature of the hottest furnace on Earth. So that's not very hot, actually. And then, and if you sort of enter the holes in the sun, because with sunspots you sometimes get those sort of dark holes that open up. They also took measurements there, and then it even gets cooler. And so sort of the deeper you get into the sun, the less warmth it is, and actually the hottest layer is actually on far outside of the sun, that is sort of surrounding it as a ball flame, so to speak. But yeah, anyway, so this is just what's in the book. I'm just repeating what's in the book. Read the book. It's probably also online, and I'm not a physicist, but I do find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I need to go and look into that, because then my information about sun is very wrong if what you're saying is true. But I need to do a little bit more research on that. Yeah, regarding plasmas, it is around Earth, but it's everywhere. So I don't think they're coming here to find anything, because Earth is not unique other than humans or like the life on Earth. And water. Water is also very unique to Earth in the form it is right now. So,
and why do you think this information can be concealed by so many for so long? So that's a really good question. And
it's not concealed because it's out for a very long time. It's just you didn't hear about it. But in the
that's
everybody knew it. Yeah.
It's so kind of funny, right? Yeah, because it's actually out in the open, right? I mean, even now, right? We are, you and me have been talking about it for over a year now. But how many people are actually listening to what we say and take it seriously, right?
Before, in the circles, people were talking about UFOs in '60s and all the government program. What's his name? It's just skipping my mind. The Area 51 guy. The Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar came out with all this information in 80s. So they are unable to conceal it. It's just it wasn't available publicly because there was no medium. So people who are connected, they knew about the UFOs and all the things which were going inside. Now, because of social media, everybody can talk about it. So this is what I'm going to say.
That's maybe interesting to sort of, so yeah, I agree with what you say. So first of all, this information was just out there in the public already, but they have been very successful in destroying the credibility of the people who came out. I mean, you have like hundreds of cases of people who have been abducted and who never changed their stories and whose life have been destroyed by the experience. You know, people that John Mack interviewed. There are, you know, numerous interesting UFO encounters. And actually, Chris Carter, who created the X-Files, said that he based the X-Files on those stories from those people, those who actually experienced those things. So because some people say that, you know, the X-Files inspired people to see UFOs, but it was actually the other way around. So Chris Carter got his ideas from going to these sittings, even with John Mack. So he actually knew John Mack. So this information was all out there. But you had, of course, Project Blue Book by the US Air Force with Hynek, and the Air Force, you know, did numerous cover-ups. And Project Blue Book, if you actually read the conclusion to Project Blue Book, it was counter to the evidence of Project Blue Book. So the conclusion stated there's nothing to see here, but if you actually go through the data of Project Blue Book, which people like Richard Dolan has done, you know, it's like hundreds of pages of, you know, the information in Project Blue Book is saying something else than the conclusion of Project Blue Book. And Hynek, who sort of led that group, changed his story later on in his life, and he said, yeah, okay, we lied and it was a cover-up. And but we needed to, you know, the Air Force wanted this stuff not to get out. So that was sort of the biggest research done into this field, and that was just to ridicule it. And then I think the one of the things that they probably also did is through Hollywood, and there's also books about that there's a direct connection, or at least an implicit connection. Perhaps that's a better way to say it, between the CIA and Hollywood, that they pushed out, you know, the stuff like the X-Files and all this sort of stuff in order to say that people got their ideas and their inspirations from these films, you know, sort of to take away credibility from these people, right?
Yeah.
And because then you can say, yeah, you just saw it on TV, right? You know, you don't have to take these things seriously anymore.
And Jacques Villais is like an old guy. He's doing that from 60s. They're like the movie Strange Encounters of the Third Kind. They're like the main character, not the main character, but like the French guy was Jacques Villais, inspired by Jacques Villais. So people are doing that, and it's like not just in the secret, it's like out in the open. And they are using, you're right, Hollywood, to give information to the people, but people are too stupid or too busy. There are two reasons. Because
I think they're doing it for two reasons. One is, you know, sort of to discredit people who come out, right? Because then you can always say like, oh, that person just saw, you know, something on TV and, you know, got it into his head or her head. And the other thing is to prime us, right? So I think a new generation was sort of primed by these ideas to accept them later on in their life. I mean, we grew up with He-Man, G.I. Joe, Ghostbusters. For example, in He-Man, you know, when you look at the plot of He-Man, it's actually Nephilim. You know, Skeletor is using these, what is it, what you say in English, cavemen to mine minerals. You know, the sort of the plot of He-Man is that you have these half beasts, half men that are using human beings or humanoid beings to mine minerals. And then the Ghostbusters, which was sort of after this plasma research, it was first, you know, like with the anti-gravity stuff, that was sort of very hip in the 50s, and then suddenly it disappeared. The same with the plasma research. It was sort of first out in the open, and then suddenly a lid was closed, and now many astrophysicists don't even know about the plasma research that is being done.
They call it ectoplasm.
But basically, that ghosts can go through walls.
Yeah.
That is actually what they saw in laboratories, that the plasma can. So first of all, the plasma can remain intact, and it can propagate, and it can move through walls and obstacles without any issue, and retain its intactness. But from research, it also has, because of the crystal structures and sort of the complexity inside of the plasma, they also think it has sort of the ability to reach, if AI and superintelligence is possible, that the plasma actually has the same makeup as these supercomputers and quantum computers, or larger. Actually, they think it's more complex than that. But anyway. And cope, for example, if you ever saw G.I. Joe, so G.I. Joe, if you saw the movie at the end of the series, that movie with Cobra Commander, basically that entire movie is about lizard men that run the world.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion to G.I. Joe, is like that lizard men are in control, or the Inhumanoids, or yet so many series that are sort of that people, that our generation was sort of primed, perhaps to at this moment later on in our lives, to be open and receptive to these ideas and take them seriously.
Yeah.
And our our previous our fathers and mothers would have found it ridiculous and impossible to believe.
Yeah. And I don't know who was saying it, but in one of the recent whistleblowers was saying that you can talk about any alien, grays, tall whites, and everything, but the moment you mention reptilians, everybody's like, shh, hush. Everybody tried to stop you. I don't know who was saying that, but I recently heard that. So there is something big going on with reptilians, and that's where you have to go and read the disclosure from David Icke, because he was the OG one who released about reptilians controlling the world.
Yeah. So again, right, I'm not saying that it's just fun to speculate about these things, but so I have also been thinking, like, why does it come out now, right? So so I actually made a list of reasons why it is coming out right now. So first of all, right, like we mentioned with Barabar, you now got technology. Technology has reached such a level that even people like you and me can get access to very high level technology, and let alone if you're like a hedge fund or somebody who has a lot of money available, then you can actually do a lot of research on your own, and this level of technology, from LiDAR to all these other kinds of technology, are sort of out there in the open, and you can just scan the Amazon like Graham Hancock is doing, and finding all kinds of new settlements and discoveries in Latin America that point towards that first of all, the Americas have been settled way before the official narrative, and all this stuff is sort of like a cascade of information that's sort of going out that it's getting out of control, right? Purely because of technology.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about the technology. I think it's the mental state of the humans. Because let me give you the example. Technology doesn't have to do anything with the coming out of them. Because before, if you see a UFO back in, like, if somebody in 80s see a UFO, they get scared. But when we see it now, like, we get excited and we want to make a contact. So there is a difference in human mental state. Before we were afraid, we were not ready. Now we are actually primed.
I was getting, I'm going through a list, but technology is definitely part of it. Then the second reason I added was, of course, communication, right? Communication and information is moving so fast around the globe right now that it's very hard to control and to stop it, right? I mean, if a whistleblower goes out, they even can put it on the blockchain right now, as Stephen Greer was pointed, then you can't even remove it anymore. So, and then of course, also all our mobile phone devices and, ChatGPT, right? The information and the technology at our fingertips is, almost uncontrollable from an if you're an authoritarian state, it is almost impossible to control this. And then I think the third reason is the world is becoming too unstable, right? At the moment, the world is so unstable, with the conflicts and the geopolitical situation between China, Russia, Europe, America, even Canada, right? So as the world becomes more and more unstable, it becomes more and more difficult to control information because you get more and more whistleblowers and people who jump ship and switch sides and leak information and try to save their own skin. So information gets out in those conditions, right? Because you're losing control, grip, influence, power in those kind of situations. Then the fourth reason I think it's coming out is the secret is simply becoming too big to hide, right? If they have been reverse engineering said technology for 80 plus years, then at some point you reach a certain level of technology, hidden technology that, and there's too many people involved, too many factions are involved, too many people know about it. Then it becomes really hard to keep it a secret because it's just the secret is just getting too big, right? Yeah. And that's of course like it's sort of like it's actually a success of the cover-up that is leading to its downfall, right? Because that's kind of ironic. And then I think the fifth is the fifth is that they are re-engineering, right? So that is what they said they are doing. So they're doing all this effort through the cover-up to re-engineer this technology. Mm-hmm. But what if, and that certain people like Carl Nell, but also others are sort of inferring or suggesting that they reached the highest level of re-engineering that is possible, and the only way to get more out of this is to go public and to get the whole world involved in order to use all our brain power to sort of really take it to the next level, because you can only re-engineer so much in all this compartmentalized in this very inefficient, highly expensive, redundant, compartmentalized, highly secretive way, because basically you have to lie to everybody and nobody really knows what they're working on. But what if you make it public and everybody can actually look into it, and then you can actually reach new levels of breakthrough, right? So perhaps they have reached the highest level that's possible in a secretive setting. And then the next reason, I think, is at some point you also want to implement it, right? Why the hell are you researching if you don't want to use it? So at some point you actually want to update or upgrade society, and then you have to make it public, right? Otherwise, Otherwise,
why you're making it, right?
Yeah, in the first place. And then the final reason why I think they're making it public and why you have this disclosure movement is that they now have the technology to control us, right? We now have CBDCs, and sort of a surveillance system. Ashton Forbes has shared a lot of stuff about how comprehensive and all-encompassing the surveillance system has become. Basically, they can see everything 24/7 if you hook up some CBDCs. And there's also new technology that goes under your skin. I'll try to find that, but I saw that recently. I forgot where I saw that. But anyway, you got this whole technological apparatus that you can basically straitjacket humanity, and then you can safely reveal it without losing control of the situation. And those are, I think, and then finally, if you are the Department of Government Efficiency and you think spending is getting out of control, well, if you make it public and you get rid of all these secretive, highly money grabbing and spending organizations, you can actually cut down a lot of spending and make it public and put it on the blockchain. So you could cut spending, make it more efficient, and you can actually audit spending that is done in these black projects, right? So it would make the whole black projects more efficient and cheaper and more yeah.
Yeah, I am actually gonna say something about it, because I think Elon Musk is being too hasty right now. Cutting USAID, I think we should cut it, but a lot of the things they were doing, they were so absurd that looks like they were the CIA front. Like one of the thing they mentioned, that there is a whole department. Their job is to make sure the wheel of the bus is round or something. Then they have like a Iraqi Sesame Street, $20 million for something. And then there were like gays for like transgender for Azerbaijan or something. It was so absurd things that looks like they were the front of CIA. And Elon Musk is not realizing who is he messing with. He's literally messing with deep state over here.
Yeah.
He should be way more careful than just trying to fuck with them, because when you go that hard on the enemy, they attack back. That could be very, very dangerous. So be careful, man. That's what
Yeah, I agree, of course, but Elon Musk himself is also highly dangerous, right? I mean, if you put, first of all, he's, I think, the highest net worth individual on planet Earth, and secondly, all his companies together form like a behemoth, right? I mean,
he
from
is not the
Starlink.
highest one. No, he's not the richest man. He's like a known richest man, because there are like a lot of unknown richest people out there, or unknown richest families out there.
Okay, but anyway, he's very powerful and he has many companies, and all these companies are sort of linked to the future, as we already mentioned. And Starlink is, of course, one giant control system. And you mentioned that he has plans to build 5 billion. Was that 5 billion or 5 million robots a year?
No. 1 billion robot a year.
Yeah, crazy amount of, and we don't know if he can actually do that. I mean, he makes a lot of crazy claims.
Well, even if he can make 1 billion robot a year, he can rule the world. 1 billion is a lot, but even 1 million robots are too much.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I am for, if Ron Paul is actually gonna audit the Fed, as they say here, I would be all for it.
But I don't think it's happening. I think they're just giving us too much hope.
Well, I think we live in very interesting times, so who knows? But yeah, there was a lot of spending that was wasted, and and a lot of crime and corruption. So I think it's good that it's being brought to light. I'm not sure if if we should all put it in, all our spending information from the treasury into Elon's hands. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. But
I don't trust Elon. I do not trust Elon. That's what I'm gonna say.
No, definitely not. But so you see, our theory of two factions, at least two factions, probably multiple factions, are fighting for control. And at the moment, the Trump, Thiel, Elon faction has taken over America, and that is a more nationalistic based. They have a more nationalistic based orientation instead of a globalist orientation.
No, it looks like it. But both of them want to take over the world. They're giving you a perception. There are no good guys. Don't live in the fool's paradise. There are no good guys. Everyone want to take over. So either it's Trump or it's the other globalist. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but basically, what people like Carl now are saying is like you need like a Manhattan-style project in order to take this whole technology to the next level and to upgrade society and to make it beneficial for the progress of society. And in order to do that, you have to make it public, right? And then they sort of mentioned that you can do it the same way as they did with nuclear energy. Like you can sort of make it public without sort of divulging how to make bombs and all that kind of stuff. So you can do it sort of in a controlled, safe way, at least according to them. Even though with psionic abilities, right? If people actually have these abilities and people become aware of that they have that and that they can train their children to remote view and have out-of-body experiences, astral traveling, and telepathy and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if you can control that. Okay, so let's end with this one. So, what happens if you have catastrophic disclosure? Well, this is Carl Nell's view on that.
You mentioned this idea of catastrophic disclosure. Maybe disclosure may be forced upon us. How do you think about that?
So the situation is usually thought of as a binary state. It's like an all or nothing. And people have sort of argued this. But anybody paying attention realizes the government has already indicated that unidentified anomalous phenomena are real, they're not ours, and they're not our adversaries. The Pentagon has said that. Like, for people that are paying attention, like, that shoe already dropped. So for a lot of people, they think that the second shoe to drop is, this is non-human intelligence, and maybe the conversation stops there. Like, the president comes out and says, there's non-human intelligence. The truth is that will precipitate this crescendo of other questions that maybe the government's not ready to answer, that will court, if not precipitate, potential negative ramification for society. And so as an example of this, I would actually point to something from the ancient past, the Bronze Age collapse. So Eric Klein, Princeton University, 2015, wrote a very interesting book called 1177 BC, the year that civilization failed. And so this is well known to current scholarship. Within a single lifetime, all of the very effective ancient civilizations of the Bronze Age failed due to a confluence of reasons that are not necessarily fully understood today. So we're talking about Egypt, the Hittite Empire, the Minoan Empire, the Manasseh Empire, the Babylonian Empire. All these civilizations failed, never to return, other than, let's say, Egypt. And so these were highly sophisticated civilizations with highly developed infrastructures, highly developed administrative states. They were globalist, in a sense, very similar to today in terms of the known world, the known Near East. They were economically interdependent. They had both diplomatic ties and commerce ties. And yet these civilizations failed in a single lifetime because of stressors that these civilizations collectively could not address within the time frame. And so if we look at our society today, one might argue that it's similarly fractured, similarly under economic stress, similarly under cultural stress as well, fractured and fragile diplomatic situation. It mirrors very much this scenario.
Yeah.
And so for a responsible...
Yeah, so that's a pretty scary scenario that he sketches there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's he's sort of implying that is what he considers catastrophic disclosure.
Yeah, but
it's a great book, by the way.
It is, but I just want to say, don't be scared. Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
An enemy can use your fear as a weapon, so do not give them that.
And I want to add one more clip, and then we'll wrap up because Douglas is waiting. Thanks, Douglas, for waiting.
It's almost 2 hours anyway. So.
Yeah, and also thanks, Paul, for being in the show. It's a lot of fun to get some comments. So I want to end with this clip. This is also really cool.
It's extraordinarily subtle, but there's a faculty that is evolving by means of which we can access this experience. And when one has this experience, it's like a crystal set locking into a kind of a radio signal, and that you lock into this unitive phenomenon in the universe, and it can download all kinds of information to you non-linearly, like seeing or hearing. He said in that this faculty, we're at the brink of moving into this new species. He said, and I think. He said to us all, this is 1968, right? This is like May of 1968. And he says, and I think that's why so many of you young men here refuse to go fight in this war in Vietnam.
Ah, wow.
That's what he said to us in that lecture.
So he's saying that, like, Pierre Desjardins, like
I know Pierre very well, as a matter of fact.
The new sphere.
Yeah,
the sort of mental sheath around the Earth that you can sort of tap into.
Yeah,
where the Russian cosmists sort of believed in something similar.
Yeah, sort of the Chinese.
Interesting.
This first thing that Dr. Zhen Zhoujing showed me. Dr. Zhen Zhoujing, who's head of the Chinese Academy of Social Science, that they've got this this faculty in Beijing, 300 of the top professors in all fields that are there for the Politburo. And I met her, that I was chairing for the State of the World Forum for Gorbachev and for James Baker at the end of the Cold War, that I chaired a thing called the Strategic Initiative to Identify the New Paradigm. And I met her in that context, and she invited me to come to China. And as soon as I showed up, the first thing she did is she brought me to the laboratory, showing me all these experiments they were doing with psychic abilities. And they were exploring and trying to figure out what all this was. And so that this is a very real thing that our human family is going through right now. It's a transition period into a kind of a new paradigm. And the UFO stuff is.
So that's the new paradigm that we're moving into. Better get ready, brace yourself, get emotionally prepared to get your mind blown.
It's going to be amazing time, and if that astrologer is right, what we said earlier, then it's going to be amazing. But let's see.
Yeah, and you know, just to put a fine point on it, I think sort of the struggle between these factions that you see, you know, the reason that things get so nasty and out of control in politics, I think it has to do with all of this stuff, right? I think this is the bounty, this is the price. You know, it's technology, but it's not just AI technology. Who knows what AI really is, right? But you know, I think it also has this more exotic angle with the UAP stuff that's happening, right? This is sort of, you know, the people who are now in power, who can stay in power, actually, you know, win the race.
Yeah. Also, to end this, I will say to everyone who's listening, go out if you live in a safe neighborhood in the nighttime around 8 and look up at the sky. Maybe you will find something, because this is randomly I found stuff like a lot of things are happening and people are not paying attention. That's why they are not seeing it. So I think everyone should go out on regular basis and look up in the sky.
Yeah. Be open to this. Watch these interviews. Do your own research, of course. You know, don't take our word on it. We might also be totally off target. I don't think so, but you know, maybe. And you know, it will be very exciting. And you know, a lot of people are hating it. I actually saw some people who are, you know, with the telepathy tapes, who were burning it to the ground and saying, "Oh, this is anti-intellectualism," and you know, sort of new age irrationalism that's sort of washing over us, and it's all fake, and there's no evidence, and this is all, you know, these children just have a very fine intuition. But as Gary Nolan pointed out, even, you know, there's sort of intuition is here and telepathy is there, but it's like on the same, you know, wave, you know, bandwidth, right? It's like just a different expression. And if these children are doing it based on purely picking up on super subtle cues, what to, you know, which numbers to pick or whatever, then I would also love to see a documentary, you know, that sort of demonstrates that these children are able to do that. But anyway, let's wrap it up and give Douglas the time to do his show. It was fun.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.